Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning from wherever you're joining us from. Welcome to another session of the Africa E-Mobility Week. And this is an interesting discussion that we're going to have as part of the series, unpack different segments of the e-mobility space. Our session today will be on boosting gender equality and inclusion in this transition towards electric vehicles. My name is Warren. I am of the Association for Electric Mobility and Development in Africa. Welcome you all. Before handing over to the session moderator today, I'd just like to pass a quick thank you, recognition to the partners who made this event possible. Right from EV Charger, Untapped, the Waterfront at Karen, UNEP, Vile Group through UTU, Standard Group, ABSA, Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and World Resources Institute. That, let me hand it over to the session moderator, to you, Shanta.
So welcome everyone for this afternoon's discussion. I feel very honoured to be a moderator, and I'm very excited to be on a panel with 4 other women who care about women in the transport and mobility sector. As way of introduction, I started Mobility for Africa 4 years ago. It's taken a long time, and what really shocked me was really how marginalised women are as the users of transport, as the designers of transport, as the builders of transport infrastructure. We tend to be sidelined and marginalised, and there is very little consultation or even desire to learn about what women experience when they have to move. And as we know, women do so much in an economy that it seems very significant that this very important 50% of the population seems to be ignored. So I'm very excited, and I see e-mobility as a great way for us to leapfrog and to really push the gender perspective into the way we design transport solutions. I think the fossil fuel transport-driven agenda has got many vested interests, but many of them didn't let women into the driver's seat, so to speak. So I'm very honoured and excited today for this discussion. We're going to start with introductions from our panellists. Then they're going to give short presentations on some of the works and issues that they face in their work, and then we'll come to discussion. So to sort of set the scene, I'm going to introduce Naomi from the Flow Initiative. So why don't we, actually, if it's okay, ladies, what we'll do is we'll do an introduction as you show your slides. I think that'll save time, and then we'll go to question and answers. So we'll go straight to Naomi, who works for a really amazing organisation, the Flow Initiative, that does a lot of great work in gender. Over to you.
Thank you very much. So good morning, good evening. As introduced, my name is Naomi Mora. I'm the Executive Director of Flow Initiative, an organization that uses behavior science to develop transport solutions. And we have 3 main approaches of doing this. One is knowledge generation, which I will, in this session, present one of our reports. Influencing behavior change. So we do implement a couple of interventions, including based on this session, we also have a Women in Transport chapter in Nairobi, Machakos, and Mombasa. And lastly, our movement building mandate, which is also aligned with me being in this session, just trying to get and to spread the gospel about transport equity. So as I mentioned, I'm going to present a research study conducted by Flow Initiative in partnership with UN Habitat. I hope you can see my slide.
Yep, they're good.
Okay. So this is a study that we conducted in partnership with UN Habitat and other consortium partners on improving training outcomes and employability of women in transport professionals in the public transport sector. And this particular research was a case study based in Kigali, Rwanda. And just to give a bit of introduction about Kigali, so when we did a quick literature review, we found that about 16% of passenger trips are made through motorcycle taxis, but only about 3% of women work in the transport sector. And so the study objectives were to assess social enterprises' existing gender mainstreaming frameworks, and also establish progress made and gaps in gender mainstreaming in the electric mobility sector. And lastly, provide recommendations to guide the improvement of gender inclusion in e-mobility. And I'm just going to go straight into the key challenges that the research found. And before I get there, sorry, you always have to talk about your methodology when it comes to research. So we had primary data collection, we had an online survey and interviews with 6 transport social enterprises. And we also featured 2 social enterprises that had implemented driving projects targeting women in Kigali. And so the key challenges were, first, were socioeconomic perceptions that hindered women from even thinking about getting into the public transport industry. Second was the issue of penetration into the job market, the lack of knowledge and expertise, data gap. So we found that social enterprises were not tracking gender disaggregated data on recruitment and employment. In addition, there were also policy gaps that did not intentionally bar sexual harassment and violence and discrimination against women. So here you see among the participating social enterprises, only 25% had equal opportunity or non-discrimination policies. 75% prohibited sexual harassment at the workplace, but none had documented anti-sexual harassment policies. And so based on these challenges, we came up, we grouped the recommendations into 4 areas. First, looking at pre-training and selection of trainees. 2, undertaking the training itself. 3, license acquisition. And 4, transition to employment. And now I know I have 5 minutes, so I'm going to go through quickly just some of the main recommendations we made. So when it comes to pre-training and selection of trainees, the challenge was there's lack of data. So for this, we recommended that as a social enterprise, when you're starting out training, either you're a social enterprise or a training school, that you start with a baseline survey that is done before the implementation of any project. In addition, another challenge was the lack of clear selection criteria to screen training applicants. We were able to talk to some of the beneficiaries of the project. And based on this, we came up with a couple of recommendations. First is, sorry, my slide moved. Yes, so first is to offer full scholarships to participants. There was a variation of this where either social enterprises or driving schools were asking participants to have a commitment fee. There was a particular case where the nonprofit was asking participants to have a 10% commitment fee of the total cost of the training. In addition, have a clear project beneficiary selection. And lastly, create a support system around the participants, which can be in form of government, learning institution, and gender-sensitive partners. Another problem when it came to training of participants was the limited capacity of partner driving schools. And so they were unable to deliver the quality that was needed. And so for this, the recommendation was to have a minimum quality standards when vetting partner driving schools. In addition, you can also explore the possibility of having an in-house training facility in order to have guaranteed quality control. Another challenge that came up when it comes to training is the location of training venues, which hinders the ease of access and also increases commute time for participants. So for this, the recommendation was to have a venue that's accessible for all participants, be it a participant with a disability, a participant who's walking to the venue, a participant who's using public transport, and also take care of any real or perceived safety concerns amongst the participants. In addition, there's a lack of incentives, and I'll talk a bit more on this later. And so one of the recommendations, for example, there was a training program that had various training components. One was driving, first aid, and I think financial management. And the problem with this was that there was a lack of standardized provision of incentive. So one partner was providing transport reimbursement, another partner was not, or one partner would offer meals, the other one would not. And so for this, one of the things we noted was this need to standardize the provision of incentives. And these incentives were mainly in three forms, which is meals or refreshments and transport reimbursement. Another issue was the lack of synergy among the different partners. And here we recommend having at least one full-time to-go person who provides all the information to the participants, provide the fringe benefits, and also coordinates all the partners. There was the issue of unforeseen risk, for example, COVID-19, even election, or change of partner, or change of ministry. And so for this, we recommend that as you start your training program, develop a risk mitigation strategy. When it came to license acquisition, there was difficulty in acquisition of driving license. Either it took longer than most partners expected it would. And for this, one of the recommendations was to partner with government agency right from the project inceptions, and also speak to individuals who are already working in the industry, because there are a lot of unwritten rules and processes that if you're not careful, you will end up finding out when already you've finished the course. And then we have the transition to employment. In order to curb the low transition rates from training to employment, we recommend developing partnership with employers right from the project initiation stage. And I cannot overemphasize the experiences of women working in the industry. There's still a lot of sexual harassment and violence happening with women who are working in the industry. And so for this, we recommend developing, documenting, and disseminating anti-sexual harassment and non-discrimination policies, holding regular sensitization training forums, and monitoring and evaluating the effectiveness of the policy throughout, from the point somebody reports to the close of that case. In addition, we made some various recommendations to other stakeholders on how to support women throughout their career cycle. And this is the career cycle for women in transport. There's attraction. We've talked about that. Selection, retention. We've not talked about career interruptions and interventions, re-entry, and advancement. And we borrowed this from a research study by ITF. And so in regards to attracting women in attraction of women to the electric mobility sector, one of the recommendations we make to e-mobility companies is to celebrate and showcase women in the transport industry. To donors, we've suggested prioritizing support to startups in the e-mobility space, and for academic institutions to organize career fairs led by women working in the industry. And we have an example as Flown of where we've had our women in transport be featured in the local TV stations in Kenya. And one of the ladies that was featured works with her husband in the public transport industry. And because of that, women who were stay-at-home moms looking for employment for the first time thought about joining their husbands to come work in the public transport industry. The lady I'm referring to, who's a member of the Women in Transport chapter, works as a conductor, and her husband is the driver. And with time, they were able to buy their own matatu, which is part of what they were featured on TV. When it comes to selection of women in mobility, we've already discussed this in depth, but one of the things we recommend is e-mobility companies to have gender plans with indicators and goals. When it comes to retention of women in the transport sector, we've provided various recommendations to various stakeholders, including the government and policymakers. And for the government, we recommend improving access to justice. When it comes to support for women during career interruptions, we recommend social enterprises to review or adopt maternity leave options. And then when we talk about the support for re-entry of women, we've made recommendations. Let me just highlight e-mobility social enterprise recommendations to provide support amenities for new mothers, such as nursing facilities. And lastly, when you talk about career realization and advancement, we make recommendations for social enterprises to provide equal pay for equal work. And so that is the end of my presentation. This is just a slide summarizing Flown's work. If you'd like to learn more about this and other of our work, you can visit our website, www.flowninitiative.org. And if you're a woman in transport, you can join our Women in Transport database. And lastly, you can support the next generation of women professionals in the public transport industry by donating on our website. And you can follow this conversation on all our social medias at Flown Initiative on any social media. Over to you, Sham.
Thank you, Naomi. I think there's a lot to digest there, but what I think is important is that we tend to not take enough heed on the policy and regulatory environment, and that is critical to how we're going to address the entrenched challenges we face. So I think there's a lot of rich food for thought, and I think it's great that you've done that research. I think if we looked at many countries, the barriers to entry for women in rural and urban to even getting a driving license is incredibly difficult. So thank you. And I hope we can come back to some of those important conclusions for the discussion. We're going to go to Lillian next. Lillian's from Spain, and she'll give us a quick introduction on her work and some of the highlights of their work in Uganda. Over to you, Lillian.
Hi, my name is Lillian. Hi, everyone, and thank you for letting me be here. It's a pleasure. I'm the founder of Mujeres Rising for Africa, which is a non-profit women organization which specializes and dedicates our programs to women empowerment, safe mobility, and gender inclusion in the mobility and transport industries. So I'm going to show you briefly, tell you, we are actually currently already did our first program with 15 participants, candidates. Our program is actually a reflection of what Fiona just, Fiona's study, Noemi's study from Fiona. So you are in Rwanda. Our first program was implemented in Uganda in July with, as I mentioned, 14 candidates, and which are now successfully 98% of them working on the safe boda industry, which is the motorcycle operator industry. In Uganda, we have a partner which is actually only in Kampala, which is Safe Boda, and then in the rest of the country, we just use our own resources in order for the ladies to integrate in the programs. So after all the study that you conducted, which is actually our main concerns regarding sexual harassment, inclusion, gender inclusion in the industry, in the mobility and transport industry, all these factors that you actually mentioned just beforehand. I'm not going to go over them because you said exactly what all the issues were, and this is why the reason I started this program. In next week, we're starting with our second program with another group of another 14, 15 ladies. And the idea is to have as many women in the transport industry as possible. Our program is composed of, it's a full intensive training. It's from Monday to Friday. It lasts 3 weeks. And it's realized right now in Kampala in the Academy of Safe Boda. Those ladies have an intensive training with our local provider. So we're using one of the best driving schools. And then we're using also one of the main company for, actually it's not a company, but we have a self-defense women-only gym that does emotional and physical self-defense classes teaching. And then with the ladies also get, at the end of the program, their first aid certification. So they go through a serial training and classes of theory and practical. So they actually learn how to ride the bike, the road safety. Then they learn how to the rules and the application of the Safe Boda app in order to start with Safe Boda once they finish the training. This case in Kampala, they get also their certification and they get the learner's permit in order to be starting the program. The organization provides with absolutely everything, including transport and lunch to all the candidates. They come every day, they go through all this, and at the end of the training, they have theory and a practical examination in those two principal mainly fields, which are the driving, the road safety, and then the certification for first aid certification in order to be able to have the full program. So once the ladies are finished with the program, the ones that passed and got their certifications along the learner's permit, they start riding in the staff of Safe Boda and then taking some packages. It's a small introduction into the industry. Then we have a mentor, which is actually a female rider. She's been riding for 5 years, and she mainly she becomes the mentor of the new riders. We registered a stage. As you probably know, I think it's the same system all over East Africa, where there's somewhere they all gathered and they work out of it. So there's actually a women-only stage registered in Kampala, and also the first female women Boda Association, Motorcycle Operator Association registered so in Kampala, and then one in Fort Portal. So literally this program is to have as many women as possible in the development of this industry, which is the mobility, obviously, and the e-mobility, very important. We are not able to start our first program with e-bikes, unfortunately, due to the providers. We had unfortunately, some missing essential tools and resources, which was the e-bikes. The providers were not yet 100% able to actually put them in the market in Uganda. I know in other countries it's going a little better and it's moving a little forward. But the idea is that the ladies do mainly these programs on e-bikes, first because it's easier and the training will be shortened, so it's also more economical and just a better way in general at all aspects in order for the ladies to do this program on the e-bikes. But as of now, we're still obviously struggling with the things that Noemi mentioned, but it's been really well received in Uganda. And actually it's been also asked to be implemented in Kenya. So the demand is there. And hopefully this program will be as successful as the first one. And what else can I say? I mean, we're moving forward. We're actually in action. The ladies are there. We have already around 12 riders qualified riders working right now in the city of Kampala. We have another 15 in 4 portal, and we're moving forward. And the idea is also to create a social enterprise of those services for so we can be sustainable and keep on and reinvesting the money that's going through the social enterprise into the organization. The programs is fully paid by our nonprofit organization. So there's no cost for the candidates and the trainees. They do have this commitment where they need to be the mentors of the newbies. So they need to be supporting them also. So we generate a community of support within the industry and the female industry in the mobility.
All right, Lynn, I think I'm going to wind you up. I thank you, but I think you've shared what's really important, the practical ways that we can address the barriers for women to learn to enter the. I'm going to go on to our next speaker, and then we're going to have time for discussion. But I think it's really congratulations on demonstrating how you break down the barriers to actually women getting licenses. We'll go to Francine now. Francine is in Kigali. She works for Ox Delivers, which is an exciting new e-mobility startup working to aggregate produce from rural farmers. Francine, over to you. Tell us how you are managing to integrate and tackle the gender inequality that we face.
Thank you so much. This is Francine. I'm managing director at Ox Rwanda. We are doing logistic by serving the entrepreneurs, and guess what? Our most customers who are entrepreneurs running their business are female, and we are now serving those female using also other female drivers. However, as you are going to see in my presentation, we do have a gap of achieving 50% of gender balance, and we have set some policies to help us around to achieve that numbers. So let me share my screen so that we can go together on each step.
There it goes. Okay, we can't see it yet.
Hello, can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can now. We just need you to see the presentation. But if you want, I can open it. Can you? If I have it. Have you got it open, Francine? If not, I can try and dig it up and share it on the screen.
Can you see it now?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, as I was telling you, Ox Rwanda is doing logistic, serving people in the rural area, people who cannot easily access the transport, and we are serving entrepreneurs, mostly farmers, to reach their harvest to the market. We have, considering to the general overview of gender equality and the social inclusive, it's true that gender balance have been behind regarding the e-mobility sector, and this, as the economy keep growing and the population growing, women are being involved and they need more attention so that they can be involved into this journey of e-mobility. So we need to address all the challenges we found around. Thanks to Fallon for bringing some data around that. So the situation of gender equality, which goes hand in hand of climate change. Ox Rwanda have tackled to this by bringing electrical vehicles and also promote the gender balance in all our operation. So some gaps that we have seen so far that allow us to think about establish some policies around promoting gender balance. One was, once we hire a female, there was a fear of driving big truck because we transport the cargo of 5-ton truck, 10-ton truck, and even more than 10-ton truck, which is 35-ton truck. And finding women in this sector have been a big challenging due to fear of security regarding harassment and also being uncomfortable of driving those big truck. Also, we have a technology around this operation where the adaptation of female in this technology have been also the challenge. And as new technology of e-mobility comes in, sometimes female feel afraid of driving electric vehicles, feeling uncomfortable with the new technology. Also, we find there is low numbers in technical schools such as engineering and also in driving school. The most common gender is the male, and we realize this can be a barrier if there is no policy associated with this in our operation start being Oxlander. So here is what we see. As you can see in this beautiful picture, you can see a woman. This is our best driver class at Ox. She have joined us later after 5 years, 5 months operating without any female around or being drivers. So these women have made an improvement to us because before joining Ox, he was a trainer in a driving school. She helped us to train more females, and I can say now we are at level of 40% of overall company. So here is the policy we established. One who have been, every time we are recruiting new drivers, if it is 10 drivers, we have a policy that 5 of them should be a woman, and then we minimize the qualification and provide further support on training so that the female joining us with capability of only driving small cars, the Jeep cars can be trained to drive even a truck of 10-ton truck. Now we are at the level of female driving 5-ton truck, and our goal is that they can be able to drive any truck available at the company. We have also provided special training for female. We created a network of female, and where female are sharing the ideas of what can be helpful for them to be engaged in the company and also grow professionally at their driving duties. So these have been helping us to award some female who have been achieving some tremendous improving their driving license levels to and the next levels, and sharing what could motivate us, make the company to bring new policies or new support to the female as facilities. One is we are giving 6-month maternity leave to the female. We also give child cares to someone who are at work and having a small kids around, and those goes as facilities to the female. Also, we provide a driving shift, where women are driving during the day, and during the night a male comes in and they support hand in hand. They go together once the driver need to drive during the night in order to serve female as the security, feeling someone is there to support and also can easily do the job knowing that I am supported around. Also, what we have done, we know once they are driving, there is some insecurity around, they might need a safe restroom. So we provide in most of the place in the lodge, there's a safe room where female can use to take care of their health and also take some rest once it is required. Another thing we have established to support female, we know sometimes they might be in the lodge and find some some external people want to attack her, we give an alarm that they open and they raise the voice so that someone can hear it, the voice, and they come to support the female. So all of that goes to the strategy of providing safety tools like first aid, and also we are networking with other technical school and driving school to bring more female around in the ox drivers. So as I told you, now here is the levels of how Ox Rwanda have promoted gender balance. In senior management, we are at the level of 62%. And in management, we are at 4%. And our drivers are now at 38%. And the whole company is 40%. This goes like we are having now 65 employees. We are now 65 employees, and it is our 1.5 month operating. And we believe by the end of the next year, we will be at the level of 50% gender balance.
Thank you. Sorry.
By closing, I can say what we put in front is like we want gender balance and including all genders by making sure that female are having equal pay with male once they are serving the same work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Francine. I think that's really inspiring as a new startup. Really impressive. I think what you mentioned, which I think is really important, is that and we've had that in our experience, is how do we build an ecosystem that supports, because as companies we can have the right mission, we can put the management on top, we can look at the gender issues ourselves, but if we don't have that supportive environment, so it's great to see Ox is working in to lobby and push for the right internally, but also within Kigali and Rwanda. So we've got one final speaker, and then we can go to questions and discussion. So our final speaker is Jedi. I think you've got some slides.
Yes, I do. Thank you very much.
So we're going to hand over to Jedi to give us another example of what we can do.
Yes, so I believe you can see my screen. So
We can. Thank you.
Yes, so I am the e-mobility representative for an association called Women in Sustainable Energy and Entrepreneurship. So WISE is a women-run organization, so all the members are women. We basically are a combination of engineers, technicians, entrepreneurs, trainers, all working in the renewable energy sector. And our main work is doing a lot of trainings and doing some installations all around Kenya. So our main mission has been to provide opportunities for women, for them to be able to take part in most of the renewable energy activities. So by providing trainings and by providing chances for them to do installations in most of the time girl institutions. So we're focusing more on the women. So our main aim is to close the gender gap for certified women in the women and technicians in the renewable energy industry. And we're trying to include and increase the number of women in the renewable energy sector. So as you can see in the touch screens, these are girls in different institutions that we've been training, getting them to understand what we do and what solar and renewable energy is in general. So our main achievement, we've been able to do solar suitcase installations. So I mentioned we do solar installations. So we have a partner called Renewable Energy and we share solar. So with that partnership, we're able to provide solar suitcases to ladies and to schools and to institutions that need renewable energy. We've been able to offer trainings to majority of the women, and over 10 women have been able to be licensed by EPRA. EPRA is the licensing company for engineers and technicians in Kenya. we've been able to train over 80 solar PV trainers and technicians. So that means we've been able to increase the number of women who are able to get involved in renewable energy in terms of hands-on and technical skills. We've also been able to train women in solar water pumping in Kenya, Ghana, Uganda, and Malawi. So we are still expanding, and we continue doing all these trainings to make people understand how we can use our skills and get this working, get the renewable energy industry well. We've been able to provide clean lighting and charging to a lot of institutions in Kenya currently. And with this, we are looking forward to building more trainings basically in the e-mobility industry and getting more women and technicians who are interested in the e-mobility technology. And then with this, we'll be able to reduce the gap in e-mobility. So that's it from us. Our main target in gender inclusivity right now is trying to reduce the gap, as I mentioned, trying to reduce the gap between the men and the women in the industry. And we look forward to getting more people involved, getting more technicians on board, and being able to train more people and we reduce this gap together. So if you want to contact us, reach us on our website and our email as provided. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm looking. I just want to say I'm personally very inspired by everyone on the panel. I think we had some great concrete action happening. Janai, I think everyone. I mean, it's interesting to hear about the skill building because I think that is so critical. We talk about all the green jobs and we have to start at the bottom. So it's great to see you very much already organised in an association to get women to be able to be brave enough to enter what often is a very male-dominated world. And I think now we're going to do a lot of, with the e-mobility space, we're going to have to also retrain a lot of our existing mechanics to understand batteries and renewable energy. And, we've got huge numbers of very skilled mechanics, but how do we make sure that women are going to be part of that? I mean, maybe we could now we'll have a bit of time for questions from the panelists. So if you've got questions, please write them in the chat box. But at the moment, I think I'd like to hear sort of a frank perspective from our guests or panelists about what they think is the biggest barrier. Is it patriarchy? Is it the men still have too much power? Is it that we're not making enough noise? What do you think could sort of catapult us into actually really making a difference in this space? From your own experience, where do you think the most resistance comes from?
Tradition? Sorry.
Okay, well, maybe Jadina, we'll start with you and then we'll come back to Lillian. But Jadina, I'm just wondering from your work within the engineering space.
Yes, so the main barrier, I might say for now, is patriarchy and also lack of women empowerment to take on all these responsibilities. Especially, I might say this from my perspective, in the e-mobility industry. And when I joined in, there were no ladies to look up to. Everyone was trying to figure out how to survive in the e-mobility industry. So lack of that path to be shown what to do and also getting empowered enough is, I think, one of the main reasons why we have less women basically in the e-mobility industry. But I'd insist more on the patriarchy and also skills. Very few ladies have got these skills, and that's why as WISE we are targeting on building this skill, and then when we build this skill, then we'll have more people in and joining in the e-mobility space.
Thank you. Lillian, we'll go to you and then we can come back to Naomi and Francine.
Yes, also I will agree with patriarchy for sure, and cultural traditions that was a big barrier for our programs, families not allowing them to do the training, or for example, the father figure or the mentor in the family not seeing that as a fit for women. So that was a big barrier and still a challenge for us.
Francine, do you want to jump in, or Naomi?
Yeah, maybe I could jump in. I agree that patriarchy is the key barrier. Even personally, when I was thinking of starting Flown Initiative, that was part of the barrier I had to face, even getting my family to accept that this is my chosen career path. And then also getting to the workplace, being a very male-dominated space, is that you kind of have, as a woman, to ask for permission to be there. And yeah, so I think as much as one of the things I say is that we need a multidisciplinary approach to it, that, for example, the donors need to do their role. As women, we need to sign up for more classes. Academic institutions need to have an affirmative action. But at the end of the day, patriarchy is in all of these institutions. And in each institution or level, it presents a different type of challenge for a woman trying to make it through the system.
Yeah, no, that's...
Thank you. I want to jump in directly. Actually, to supplement on what they say, what is needed now, we have many companies and organizations that are still comparing women and men's qualification, regardless that women have been right behind in the sectors. So instead of keep comparing women on qualification, let's give women a chance, because speaking from experience, we hired a lot of women without all the qualification we needed, but now they are the best. They are able to do mechanical and they are able to drive the big truck, while they join with low levels on driving and also on the mechanical side.
I think that's true. We do need a bit of proactive affirmative action, maybe. Go ahead, sorry. I wanted to just also discuss, I mean, we have two challenges, because we have many challenges, as everyone's noticed, but how do we also get to use the opportunity that e-mobility provides to rethink how women experience transport? I mean, we know that women are the majority of users of public transport. They're usually the ones walking and carrying the heavy loads. They're usually the ones who don't own a car or a motorbike, or even a bicycle. And I mean, when we started doing our research, you know, we knew that a lot of women were afraid to drive a bike. They wore a skirt. There was no one asking them questions about their experience as passengers. How do you think we overcome that, that women are 50% of the population, most probably the ones most at risk in the transport sector, but yet no one is asking them their opinion about their experience? How do we shift the thinking about the customer? I don't know if that's making sense and anyone wants to have a go.
Maybe I could. Yes, I think you're absolutely right that electric mobility offers us an opportunity to get it right, almost like right from the start. We've seen how other modes of transport have played out, from buses to fuel-based motorcycles to tuk-tuks. Those are three-wheelers. And so I do feel that as e-mobility, we have a chance to learn from other modes of transport. And I think starting from women, looking at women as commuters, but also as professionals, I think we also need to move a bit from seeing women as end users and begin right from the word go. So one of the things we've been talking about is how do we get women to be involved in the whole ecosystem, currently we are talking about women from being users, but also drivers. But how about women being manufacturers and service providers, financiers, investors, distributors, vendors, repair and maintenance? So there's a whole value chain where we can have women involved. And I understand we are starting from women as commuters and drivers, but there's opportunity for a lot more.
Does anyone want to add about, I'm wondering, Francine, you've got women driving. Have you seen, in terms of your customers, is it more women using your services, or is it more men using your transport services?
Thank you so much. I can say the most women are doing the business here in Rwanda. There is a different opportunity invested in women to learn their own business. There are available funds for women, and we find ourselves serving most the women, and they are staying even during the night in the Lord, and also they are not supported in the infrastructure wise, where you can't find the light near the Lord, where even the truck, the way truck is designed, it doesn't give the access for the users to be able to feel safe around. Therefore, I could say, yes, as compliment, we want to have female in all corners, even in the manufacturer place. I wish like we could have even initiative to sponsor a woman who are owning a e-mobility manufacturer, so that I am sure they will be considering all corners that are lying women behind, for instance, ensuring the lighting on electrical vehicles are enough, ensuring the infrastructure being considering all genders around.
Thank you. We have a question in the chat box about how to the advantages women can bring to the e-mobility sector. It's a very good question. Has anyone got any thoughts? I mean, we've talked about the skill building. I mean, what advantages? I think they're obvious, but maybe I'm not understanding the question right. I mean, I think it is an amazing opportunity. I know we've got a couple of minutes left. I just wanted to go to the money question about how do we, Naomi, you talked about donors, but how do we truly get more, I don't say gender-focused funding, but more funders to be conscientious. I feel like at the moment gender lens investing is more a token tick box than it is perhaps driving the decisions. Any thoughts about how we get more financing to help build the skills and put us at the table? I don't know if you've got, Jedi, any thoughts about how we create more affirmative action and fund it?
So for us to even get the women, for us women to get more donors to come in, we need to unite as a group. We need to be together and show that we want this. This is the passion that we have. So this will start by all the people in the industry trying to bring in that group together, and then raising up the new people, the newbies fresh from campus and who are trying to start their careers, getting them to understand this. And then with that, the pioneers in the industry are able to create this one platform where now donors will be more motivated to invest in. Yeah, so I think the first thing would be, let's first build a capacity for us women and try supporting each other and making our groups work. And then now we can have donors willingly investing in us.
Warren's asked a good question, which I think bridges this one. I mean, how do we get more women-led e-mobility companies? I'm a women-led e-mobility company, and know that I've got a lot of men in the business that are. How do we get more women to actually be in the driver's seat? What do you think it's going to take? Sorry.
Oh, let me jump in on that. Actually, to bring more women around, I remember at the beginning, once Oxy started, it was big challenging to find women. It was even concluding that there is no women available in this sector. So the first thing to do is like there is different opportunity in the country or in Africa that are supporting women in education. And then after that, we don't know where those women goes. So it's need a network around where like we could link all the opportunities, support, empowering women, and then keep growing it until to the level of their career path. So this will help us to the link between the schools and professional development would give a chance to build a network. Also, once we get at least one female, at least through recommendation, they would refer other women that they know in their circles.
Thank you. Any final words from anyone on the panel before Warren shuts us down? Naomi, we can't see you, but you got any concluding remarks from anyone? I think the network is important, and I think the more solidarity we have to push and keep reminding people that we make up, as the Chinese saying goes, we hold up half the sky, if not 75% of the sky at the moment. So. Well, thank you all for participating. Warren, I'm going to hand back to you. It was great to meet you all and hear all about the really great work being done.
Well, thank you all for the opportunity. Again, well done, Shanta, for carrying us through the conversation. I'd like to thank you all for attending this session. This is the third session for day 2 of the Africa E-Mobility Week. And tomorrow we still have 3 more sessions to go through. They'll be quite exciting, and we start off at 11 a.m. East Africa time as well. So ensure you log on, and see you tomorrow. Otherwise, if you are still around on the weekend on Saturday, remember we have an e-mobility expo that will be happening right here in Nairobi, Karen. And for that, I will still allow maybe a couple of minutes for all of you to interact, maybe share a few contacts if you need to make any catch-ups or follow-ups. Otherwise, we'll close in a couple of minutes. But thank you once more.
And congratulations for putting such a good program together, Warren, for the e-mobility week. It's a great beginning to what needs to grow.
It's a growing conversation, and we're hoping to support it every year.
Thank you. Well, I'm really honoured, ladies. Francine, can I ask you how did Simon find you?
Yeah, let me put my email on the chat.
Okay. I would love to hear your story. It sounds like he's very lucky to have found such a talented managing director. And can I ask, Jadina, is WISE just East Africa, or can we join from Southern Africa?
It's open for everyone. Yeah, we just limited to women only, but it's open for anyone anywhere in the world.
Okay, we've got some great engineering young people that I'm going to get Rumbi to join. It's good to membership networks.
I'm putting up the email address for anyone who would want to contact us.
Great. Right. Well, I'm inviting everyone. If you're welcome to come south too. We don't have bodas, but we have a lot going on here. So welcome to Zimbabwe. It's It's not so far. So anyway, I hope to come visit you in East Africa too sometime soon.
Definitely. Connections and networks between East Africa, West Africa, Southern Africa is actually quite important. And yeah, we hope to hold this event someday in Zim as well.
Yes, we're it's getting blowy here. We're about the rains are going to begin. I don't know what the weather's like in Nairobi, but we've had very hot weather, and we're hoping the rains will start soon for the.
Yeah, it's pretty hot and dry as well. Great. I'll proceed to shut down the meeting in minutes time. Feel free to post any contacts. Minutes time, I'll close the discussion. But otherwise, the recording of this session will also be shared to all of you who attended the session. Watch your inboxes, but we'll.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Right.
Thank you. Bye.